What's up, everybody? We are back with another episode of the Kings of Tennessee podcast. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Billy Derrick. Billy, it's Thanksgiving week. We're 2 days away from the turkey going in the oven and being set on the table. That brings us to the last week of the regular season of college football and rivalry week. It's both of our teams showing down this Saturday at 2:30. Excited to see how that goes. How are you doing the week of the bird?
I'm good, man. It's always a good week. Got Thanksgiving, got football, we got food, spend time with family. It's always the best weekend or best week at least. I think of the year, especially for a football fan. Because all you're doing is eating. You're sitting back and you're watching football. There's not much better than that. So, but yeah, Chase, not as much hype for this Tennessee Vandy game. Not saying there was a ton last year, but I think there was a little bit. There was a little bit of anxiousness and excitedness for Vanderbilt heading into that matchup last year, and for Tennessee, there was some nervousness. I mean, I think we talked before that, and you I think admitted that you were a little scared, and I think Vanderbilt fans were excited about what might happen. But this year, I mean, the way the season's gone, there's just it doesn't feel like there's a path for Vanderbilt to even really compete much in this game. But I'm sure we'll get into that, Chase, and a lot of other games, especially the game, Michigan, Ohio State. I mean, the biggest, I cannot wait for that. I mean, and then you got Alabama, Auburn as well. It's always good. That's at Jordan Hare. So looking forward to it, Chase.
It's a fun week. It's one of my favorite. It's probably my favorite week of college football. I love rivalry games, and this
It's
week
also, isn't it
especially,
funny? It's so hard. Isn't it hard to say rivalry week? Like
it
you
is
gotta
very
go
tough.
slow. Like it's like
Rivalry,
rivalry week. It's always hard for me
rivalry.
to say that.
Yeah, rivalry week, man. Rivalry week. But it's also a good week that's like on Thanksgiving. Like we're doing a Thanksgiving on Saturday, which is gonna be awesome because I'm gonna get to eat turkey, eat dressing, and just kick back and watch tons of
Hmm.
college football. So that's also like a plus of rivalry week. Uh, I know we get NFL games on Thanksgiving Day. The Egg Bowl is on Thanksgiving Eve, which we'll
Hmm.
talk about that. That's also one of these games that's like, eh, we'll see. But
Yeah, not
it's
as
a
much
fun week.
excitement for that one.
Yeah, no, not as much. I think I'm going to be more excited about the NFL games that day, and then we'll
Yeah.
cap it off with the Egg Bowl. But it's a good week. It's also a sad week because we realize where we are now in college football. I mean, after this, we'll be here next week for the conference title games, and then I'm sure we'll do something for the national title game. But like, man, football is it's winding down. It is.
Man, it
It's
flew
that time of
by.
the
It's
year. It
crazy.
did. It really did. And I always feel like it does. I know like there's always a point in the season where like, holy crap, we're 6 games in, we're halfway there, and then you're like, holy crap, we're 9 games in, we're almost there, and then you get to this week and you're like, man,
Hmm.
it's over. Um, and it's even tougher like when neither of our teams are competing for a conference title. Because extend the season a little bit. Tennessee will be in a bowl game. Now, what freaking bowl game that'll be at this point, who knows? Music City maybe, which would be fun. But
I was thinking, I think they'll be better than Music City. I
I
haven't checked the projections. We need to get into that. But
yeah,
I was thinking, because we got a lot of Notre Dame fans in our family. I'd love to see Tennessee Notre Dame, kind of a clash of styles. Hartman with Notre Dame. Notre Dame might have the edge in that one, but I would love to see that. There's some matchups I'd love to see. You could get a weird one in the Rose Bowl with Iowa and whoever gets out of the Pac-12, probably maybe Arizona. So I
that's
think
gonna
you're gonna get
be
some interesting matchups this year in bowl games. But I was just thinking about that the other day. I want to see Tennessee Notre Dame. I think both fan bases would travel really well to that. But I'm gonna look into their projections right now, see where they got Tennessee.
I think we might need to add that like just a bowl rundown before all the bowl chaos gets going. Because
Hmm.
bowl season is my favorite. Bowl season is incredible. Like it's the best. I mean, for almost like a full straight month, every Saturday, every
Oh,
weekday,
that's awesome.
you just get a random game. We'll sit down and watch the Bahamas Bowl. The Little Caesars Pizza Bowl. I mean, it's the best. When you play NCAA 14, you were always excited about bowl season, just to see what
Uh-huh.
bowl that your team was playing in. So we need to add that. We need to get us a bowl rundown going. I see Gator Bowl right now against NC State, according to Fox. Um,
Okay.
and then I see Notre Dame versus
I
LSU in their bowl game.
I see Gator Bowl against NC State as well, according to ESPN. Yeah. So it looks like Gator Bowl is one that Tennessee might be in. But I mean, so I think it's either probably Gator Bowl or one of those other Florida bowls. What's the other one? Whatever the other one is, Camping World maybe.
Yeah.
Um, Tennessee, it feels like they always get sent down to Florida because they know they'll travel. So the Florida, they all that hotel money. So yeah, Gator Bowl, that'd be fun. It looks like that's a noon kick on December 29th, a Friday. So yeah, no matter what bowl Tennessee goes to, Chase, it'll be fun because Tennessee fans always travel. But I put Notre Dame in there, man. I want to see that.
It would be a lot of fun, and I know Tennessee fans they love getting their Florida bowls because I know on Twitter I see a lot of the fan base is very excited to book their flight down there and to enjoy a week at the beach and then a week of a bowl game that we're playing in down there. So I'm sure that's what the fans will be clamoring for. I saw Music City Bowl, Wisconsin and Auburn. That would be a fun uh interaction.
Oh, I lost your audio, Chase.
My mic, there it goes. My mic shut off for some reason, so I had to ditch that mic. That's fun. Uh, but
I
uh,
got you.
Auburn, uh, Auburn has been disappointing. Wisconsin has been disappointing. So we'll see really how that bowl would shake out. I love going to Music City Bowl. I've been to 8 Music City Bowls in my lifetime. So it's
Wow.
awesome to add number 9 this year. Might have to.
There you go.
There's a lot going on. We got a big slate, like we said, rivalry week. Uh, so let's jump into our helmet stickers, Billy. I've got my two prepared, but I'm gonna let you lead off as we always do. Give us a recap from this past week of college football.
I'm going to start with Louisville and their win over Miami down there in Miami. What Jeff Brom has been able to do at Louisville is unbelievable. I mean, when Scott Satterfield left after last season, I mean, Louisville fans were all over Jeff Brom. Bring Brom home, bring him back. And they ended up bringing him back. And on Saturday, Jeff Brom kind of paid fans back for that support. He punched the Cardinals' ticket to the ACC title game. And who would have thought? I mean, Louisville was not very good last year. I think Jeff Brom came in, brought in some transfers. Yeah, I like that quarterback, Plummer. I think he's a good player. And they held on 38-31 to beat Miami. Louisville's got a lot of talent. Like I said, I like Plummer. Jawar Jordan is a great running back. Jamari Thrash is a good receiver. So they've got weapons to use in that offense. And Jeff Brom is one of the better play callers in the country. So my first helmet sticker, and this could be for the whole season for Louisville. But for me, it's the job Jeff Brom has done in kind of culminating in a huge win at Miami to punch their ticket to the ACC title. And Chase, I mean, I know Louisville's probably not getting into the playoff. I think they can get really close though, especially if they beat Kentucky and then they go beat Florida State in the ACC title. I mean, what would that be? That would be an 11-1 team or 12-1 team, 12-1 ACC champ. Again, I don't think they get in because of that loss earlier in the season, and they had a close one against Virginia as well. But keep an eye on Louisville. I think that they're hoping for a New Year's Six. They could probably out to get it. I think they can, and I think that'd be a hell of a story this season for Jeff Brom. So first helmet sticker, Jeff Brom and Louisville, what they did down there in Miami. And I'm going to go a little off the cuff here. I'm going to go with the Aggies of New Mexico State, not Texas A&M. New Mexico State knocks off Auburn at Jordan-Hare Stadium 31-10, just dominated Auburn. An embarrassing loss for Hugh Freeze. New Mexico State was a 25.5-point underdog on Saturday. They won by 3 touchdowns. The last time that happened in an FBS game was just last year. Oh, who was that? That was New Mexico State over Liberty. The losing coach was Hugh Freeze. So New Mexico State does it again to Hugh Freeze. Jerry Kill has done a heck of a job there at New Mexico State. Diego Pavia is one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the country. The Aggies team, they rushed for over 200 yards. Auburn's defense was nowhere to be found. Their offense nowhere to be found either. Embarrassing loss for Auburn, but Chase, give credit where it's due, man. New Mexico State pulls it off. So I wanted to go off the cuff there a little bit. Second helmet sticker, Diego Pavia in New Mexico State knocks off Auburn. Just unbelievable. I mean, I didn't watch much of that. I think I turned it on late. Tried to see if Auburn could come back, but yeah, saw that. Checked my phone, saw that Auburn had lost. Unfortunate for Auburn, but man, hell of an effort there from New Mexico State. Give me New Mexico State second helmet sticker, and then the first one is forgetting Louisville, Jeff Brom and Louisville. So that's what I got.
We traveled all day Saturday. We had a wedding, so we were on the road for most of the day for about 4 hours in total of road time. So football was not greatly watched this weekend. I saw some of the big headlines. One of the bigger headlines, and I said this last week. I said I named this coach of this program, and I said he deserves to be talked about coach of the year. And if he didn't solidify that Saturday, I don't know what will. My first helmet sticker is the Arizona Wildcats and Jed Fish. Last year, 3 wins. 3 wins is all they had last year. They were 3-6. 3 wins total. This year, just in succession, they've beaten Oregon State. Then they went on the road and beat a ranked UCLA team. Then they survived Colorado and those pesky Colorado Bison. And then this week, I know this week was a close matchup in terms of spread, but they blew out Utah, and they've looked great in the last 5-6 weeks. They've looked amazing. Barring a couple losses early in the year, this team could be competing for a Pac-12 title. And the way they're building this year, next year, I think they can. I think Jed Fish has done an excellent job at Arizona. And I think for me, he's in my top 3 short list of coach of the year. So I'm very excited to see what they do going forward this weekend and into the bowl game that they've earned themselves a trip to now. But they've had a really good week. They've had a really good past month, had a really good month and a half. And I think it continues. Just the way they've been playing football. Their quarterback, Fafita, looks great. He's been playing lights out lately. So that's a team that's very dangerous going into bowl season, and I'm very excited to see who they get matched up with. And then my second helmet sticker, it's a memoriam helmet sticker. It's a very sad, somber memorial sticker. Jordan Travis, man. I told you last week that I was a curse when it comes to picking things. Like everything I touch goes very wrong. I had Jordan Travis as a Heisman future. I know I've mentioned it quite a bit on the show. So that's on me. I everything I touch just falls apart. Jordan Travis is the latest example of that. But I mean, the kid's had a great year. And he was up there. He probably wasn't going to win the Heisman, but he was going to wind up in New York. And he was having a fantastic season. That team, Florida State, was on a run. And then all of a sudden, this past Saturday against UNA, weirdly enough, that all seemed to come to an end for Jordan Travis. He announced that his college career is over, so I'm assuming he's going to jump to the NFL. But this Florida State team is in a weird flux right now. I know they're talking about, even if they went out, holding them out of the playoffs. I think that would be completely wrong. Even if they went out, if they beat Florida this week and Louisville in the ACC title game, they're in. Like, there's no question about it. Starting quarterback, backup quarterback. I mean, they should be in, regardless of who their quarterback is, if they finish the season undefeated. This team is still really good. I think this team has if they get to the playoffs, they have a chance to win a couple games. I mean, this team is very good. And Billy, I know there's been a lot of talk about that, about holding them out, even if they finish undefeated, and that would just be wild to me.
Yeah, it would be a disgrace. It'd be a joke. I mean, you talk about we talk a lot about the eye test and what a team looks like. Well, over the years, the playoff committee hasn't really, I mean, to my knowledge, hasn't cared a whole lot about the eye test. Now, whether a team is undefeated or not, I mean, they're undefeated. I mean, you're not going to leave. There's no way in hell you leave out a 12-0 undefeated ACC champ. There's just not, no matter who their quarterback is, whether he's hurt, whether he's healthy, they got it done. Now, Chase, I think it sorts itself out. I think they lose anyway. I honestly think, I know this game isn't on our slate here, but I think Florida knocks off Florida State. And we're not going to be talking about this anymore. But if Florida State is to win and then they beat Louisville, they're in. I mean, there's no questions asked. But I see why people are hesitant about that because of the committee. I mean, there's only 4 teams that get in. So I see why people are hesitant, but it shouldn't even be a discussion if they do go 12-0.
I know they bring up Cardale Jones as well, and that Ohio State team ended up going on to win it all. So I think you can use that precedent alone to justify if they go undefeated to put them in. But we'll see. Like you said, it'll play itself out more than likely. But this college, the closer we get to the final rankings, the more chaotic it's seeming to get because there's a lot of options that could happen, and I'm sure we'll get into that next week as we head into conference championship week, which is going to be fun. Next week is going to be crazier than I think any of the weeks before, because there is so much at stake. Conference championship weekend. Alabama, Georgia is going to be incredible. I can't wait for that game. I have a lot of hot takes about that game actually, and I'm very excited to get into that next week. But yeah, Arizona, great last month, great month and a half. Jed Fish has done an incredible job this season, and Jordan Travis. Prayers up for Jordan Travis. It was a great year. It was a great year, and hopefully he finds a lot of success moving forward. But speaking of success moving forward, it's time. It's time, Billy. Let's get into it. I'm pulling up our rankings right now. Billy last week goes 5-5 on the season, or 5-5 on the week. Myself, I had a good week actually, 6-4. But as you guys will see, that doesn't really help me much because I am still in the dumpster when it comes to pick'em. I need to go perfect. Like I've never needed a more perfect week in my life than this week. So
Come
man,
on, big week,
yes,
Chase. Let's go.
6-4 last week. Oh, I won the lock of the week though, our lock battle. So I took the 3-game series so far. I'm sure we might have another lock this week that I'm excited about, or next week going into the conference championship. But yeah, this is where the nitty-gritty. We gotta get going. Billy is still soaring over 500, looking great. So
Somehow.
yes,
I
been great.
love how you have a better lock of the week record. That's the
Mhm.
funniest thing about it. You're 5-8. I mean, it's not by much, but 5-8, 4-9. Huge week. We could kind of get even here, and that's probably what's going to happen because it's gambling. It always happens.
It'll find a way, just like the playoffs, to level itself out eventually. Hopefully, maybe. But yeah, I need a perfect week, and there's some interesting games on here. So we'll start Thursday night, Thanksgiving night. We've probably already had our meal for the day. We took our nap. You watch the Lions and you watch the Commanders and the Cowboys. You've taken your nap, and now you wake up and it's time for dessert. So what do? You go grab a pumpkin pie, pecan pie, whatever your choice of dessert is, throw it in the microwave, 15 seconds, cup of coffee, sit down, and you turn this game on because it's the always fun and always entertaining Egg Bowl. Ole Miss traveling to Starkville as a 10.5-point favorite. Over under set at 55.5. Billy, how are we enjoying dessert? First of all, what dessert are we going for on Thanksgiving? And where's your head for the Egg Bowl?
Man, this one's tougher than I thought it was going to be. I hate this line. 10.5 is brutal. If it was like 14, Oh, Mississippi State all day, to cover. But this was tougher than I thought it would be because obviously, Chase, we know how bad Mississippi State is. But I think firing Arnett might have done them a little bit of good a couple of weeks before this game, just because they kind of get him out of the way. I mean, that was awful. I mean, the offense that they put out there was abysmal. I mean, to be that bad after not losing that much off the team from last year, I mean, that kind of tells you how good Mike Leach was and how important he was to that team and just how inept a Zach Arnett offense can be. But no, I'm going to take Ole Miss here, Chase, 10.5. I think it is right now. I'm going to go under, though. I think it's going to be close. That's a lot of points for the over-under. But yeah, give me Ole Miss to cover, and then I'll take the under on Thursday night in the Egg Bowl.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, I'm sure there's an egg-based dessert that both these Mississippi-based schools could find themselves enjoying. But I'm going to go with you, Billy. I'm going to go Ole Miss minus 10.5. But I'm going to go over 55.5. This game always feels like it's insane, and it's back and forth, and it's Lane Kiffin, and it's, Mississippi State, and it's Ole Miss, and it's a fun time just because of how wild it seems to get. And there's definitely it's not as fun as it has been in the past couple of years without Mike Leach. I think Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin head to head was some of the most fun matchups that we could see, just because it's two offensive geniuses kind of duking it out a little bit on Thanksgiving night. But that being said, I still think it's going to be a fun game. I do think Ole Miss covers. I'm hoping it's not a blowout. Just give us some entertainment and some fireworks so we can head into the weekend. But I like Ole Miss minus 10.5 and the over 55.5. But speaking of fireworks, this game is going to be fun. They don't call it this anymore, but the Civil War, Oregon State, one of the most fun matchups there is in the Pac-12, if not the most fun matchup inside the Pac-12. Oregon traveling to Oregon State as a 13.5-point favorite. That's a big spread. Over under set at 62.5. I'm going to go ahead, and this is where my head lies, because last week Washington came into Oregon State, correct? And Billy, we talked about this because it was our lock battle. Washington coming into Corvallis was 2.5-point dogs. Now Oregon shows up after they picked up a big win against Arizona State. Oregon State drops that game to Washington, and now Oregon's a 13.5-point favorite. So that flip is nuts to me. And maybe it shows how much Vegas is liking Oregon's chances as we get closer to that Pac-12 title game. Maybe it's showing how far they've kind of how they might have misread Oregon State last week. That being said, I'm going to take State plus 13.5. I like Oregon a lot, and I do think Oregon knocks off Washington in that title game. But 13.5 is a lot of points. Oregon has been killing the kind of the lower teams of this conference and the lower teams that they've played. But I think Oregon State is not that bad. It's a rivalry game at home. Oregon is going to be looking forward to next week, looking ahead a little bit. So give me State plus 13.5 and give me the under 62.5.
Yeah, there's like weirdly a lot at stake here. The Ducks are in the Pac-12 title with a win and setting up a rematch with Washington. They also need to win to keep their playoff hopes alive. For Oregon State, they would love to deal a death blow. I mean, to those hopes against their in-state rival. Dangerous spot for Oregon. This is kind of the game, Chase, classic rivalry week game where, Oregon's kind of sitting there saying, okay, all we got to do is get by Oregon State. Right? That's all we got to do. And it's going to be tough. These have been the two best running teams in the conference. But Oregon has the edge in explosiveness, I think, in the passing game. And I think the big question is, can DJU match up with Bo Nix, right? Can he kind of go shot for shot? Because, Oregon, what they put up last week, Chase, 50, almost 50. So this is an explosive offense now, right? This isn't Washington State that Oregon State is playing. I think that's a lot to ask of DJU. I think I could see kind of a late cover from Oregon. If this line was a little bit bigger, I would definitely take it. I'd take Oregon State, but I'm gonna roll with Oregon. I think they barely cover. They find a way. Again, it's not gonna be easy. I don't love my pick here, but I'm gonna go Oregon to just barely cover that. I think it's 14. So I think I could see them winning by 16, 17, something like that, whether it's a late cover. But yeah, I'm going to ride with Oregon. I love Oregon right now. I love what Bo Nix has done in that kind of that balanced offense. And Chase, I think they've got a chance to beat Washington in the Pac-12 championship and then move on to the playoff. But yeah, I'm going to take Oregon here to cover and give me the over as well. I think this would be a lot of points.
I really hate that this rivalry. This is another rivalry that's like, I don't know how they've got it set up so far, but as far as I know, this rivalry is going to be very difficult to keep playing with both these teams branching off into their new conferences. So I don't know how many more of this rivalry we'll see, honestly. But it's been fun. This game has produced a lot of drama. I remember Marcus playing Oregon State back in the day of his Heisman run that they went on to the playoffs. That was a fun game. But both these quarterbacks, I like DJU and I like Bo Nix, two transfers. Bo Nix, by the way, him and Jaden Daniels. Billy, I don't know if you've seen this. They keep flip flopping Heisman favorite odds.
Yeah,
So I'm pretty
I
excited.
still don't know what to think there. I think Bo Nix probably has the best chance, and I think people are kind of looking at that going, they're going to beat Washington, and he's going to have the edge. I think that's what people think is going to happen, and I would agree. I think that's going to happen, and I think Bo Nix is probably your Heisman Trophy winner if that happens. But say Penix wins, say Washington wins, I mean, that probably bumps Nix out of the race, and at that point, I think it's a question of do you go Penix or Daniels? Because I think Penix and Daniels is closer than Nix and Daniels. Like I just feel like Nix, like if Nix beats Washington, boom, give it to him. Just because I think he's been that good. I mean, Penix has been great as well. He's kind of slowed down a little bit though these last several weeks. He's been good, but he hasn't. Like I don't know that he's matched Daniels and Nix. Like Nix and Daniels, I think are an echelon above. But yeah, Chase, I think if Oregon wins over Washington, you got to give it to Nix, but I don't think enough people are talking about Daniels.
I agree. I think Jaden Daniels is by far and away the best player as of late. He's been the best player in the country. Yeah, he's had a
Yeah.
phenomenal season. And that record, this is the big debate. Is it the best player in college football? Is it the best player on the best team? Where do we find this award at now? And
Yeah.
so we're gonna get that answered hopefully soon. I'll be okay with Bo Nix winning the Heisman Trophy. But speaking of people who will not be okay with Bo Nix winning the Heisman Trophy, let's go to one of the all-time rivalry games on Rivalry Week. Alabama going into Auburn, the Iron Bowl. This is, Billy, we've always said this is our conference. This is where our two teams reside. This is arguably one of the, if not the best rivalry in the SEC. It's a fun time. It's kind of been a little lackluster the last maybe 1 or 2 years. We have seen some big upsets in this spot. We've seen some big blowouts in this spot. Alabama right now, 14.5 point favorite on the road, over under 48.5. Billy, what's your outlook on the Iron Bowl this year?
Man, this one, I don't think, a lot of people are talking about, Auburn, Jordan Hare, the kind of the Jordan Hare effect. And I mean, I buy it. I think Auburn's going to be ready to play. I just don't think, I think Alabama's rolling right now. And, they're playing to stay in the college football playoff race. And that's a lot of momentum, man, to kind of, say, hey, we got to take care of business while, they're hoping for its first low stress game on the Plains since 2015. I mean, it's been close the last decade, really, anytime Alabama has gone down there. But for Auburn, they're trying to atone for their their humiliation last week in the hands of New Mexico State, like we talked about earlier. They're trying to ruin Alabama's season. So there's always motivation. Of course, it's rivalry week, no matter what's going on. But I think the question here is, after getting embarrassed last week, does Auburn have any fight left? Right? Do they have any pride left, or have they sort of packed it in and they have they admitted that, okay, now we got Alabama rolling in? Whew. I think that's the big question. History says yes, because it's the Iron Bowl, right? I mean, no matter what has happened in that season, it's going to be close. That's the best part about the Iron Bowl. It's the best part about rivalry week. Auburn, I mean, they looked hopeless heading into this game a couple of years ago against an Alabama team, that was looking for the playoffs. And I mean, that game went into overtime, if you remember, Chase. And it's also the crazy 10 years since the kick six. So if you're into Mojo, maybe 10-year anniversary, maybe something crazy like that. But no, I think a lot of talk there, a lot of fluff. I don't think it matters. I think Alabama, I don't think they put up like 40 or 50. I think Auburn's defense is good. So I think I love the under in this game. But I also love Alabama. I love the under because of Auburn's defense, but I love the under because of Auburn's offense also. They haven't scored. I mean, they put up 10 points last week. If they can't score 2 touchdowns against New Mexico State, they're certainly not going to do it against Alabama. I think something like 28-10, maybe, low scoring, kind of ugly. But yeah, give me Alabama to cover, and then I'll take the under as well in this one.
We are going to be perfectly in agreement with this game, because I want to take Auburn so bad, just because, like you said, this game is always close. The overtime games, Auburn always wants to play Alabama tough. And I want to think that this is a tough spot for Bama because Georgia's on the horizon. So they could be looking ahead just a little bit. I know Nick Saban doesn't like to look ahead at all. And it's really tough, but I'm fading myself, because normally I would pick Auburn, but I'm going to fade myself and follow you and pick Bama. So give me Bama minus 14.5 and give me the under. I think it's going to be a fun game. But right now, we talked about it last week, Bama's kind of inevitable right now. And I'm very excited that next week is going to be crazy, which we'll get into that down the road, but it's going to be fun. But I like Alabama here in the one of the best rivalry games in the SEC, if not all of college football. Speaking of rivalry games, there's a reason this game is tagged with the name that it's tagged with. Both these two teams hate each other so much. Both these two teams are in the top 4 vying for a playoff spot. One team is dealing with a lot of stuff off the field. The other team is dealing with a lot of doubt, circulating around that team. Billy, you said this earlier in the show. This to me is the number 1 rivalry in all of college football, all of college sports. The game, Ohio State, the Buckeyes, traveling to Michigan as 3.5-point dogs. Over under right now set at 46.5. Billy, I'm gonna lead us off. We've talked about Michigan. We've had discussions on this show. We've talked about all the stuff that's going on. Harbaugh is gone for these last 3 games. He accepted his suspension. They fired another linebacker. They fired their linebacker coach. So there's a lot. This is the game that Michigan fans are looking forward to, because this is where they can undoubtedly say that if they win this game, they're in the playoffs. They're the best team in the country. And they've been looking forward to it, because especially of the weird allegations that Ryan Day was the one who started all of this mess with the NCAA with his brother. That's a fun topic to get into at some other point in history. But I like Michigan here. I think Michigan, I've had Michigan at number 1 for forever, up until recently, until Georgia. I thought Georgia had took that spot. But I feel like I've had Michigan at number 1 since almost the beginning. I've said I know they've been beating the fluff teams, but they've been doing it so well. That run game is unreal. And I don't know if Ohio State is going to be able to handle that run game. It's going to be cold. It's going to be possibly snowy. It's Michigan. It's Ann Arbor. And that run game is going to hurt when it gets that cold. I mean, it's not going to feel good when you're having to hit somebody running at you like that. We've witnessed it, Billy, as Titans fans with Derrick Henry in this cold weather. You don't want to touch somebody in the run game in this type of
Mm-mm.
weather. So I'm taking Michigan minus 3.5. That's also lock of the week alert again. Michigan is my lock of the week. Michigan minus 3.5 here, and give me the under because I think it's going to be low scoring.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Michigan as well. I just think they have so much motivation right now. So much motivation. I mean, you saw the tweet, everybody's tweeting bet, all that. Like I just think and I mean, Ohio State does too, though. Like Ohio State, I don't want to gloss over that, but how does Michigan lose right now? I mean, they're not losing to Ohio State after all this. I could be eating my words here, but I just don't see it. I think Michigan's more physical. And I think they will run it up Ohio State's butt until Ohio State stops it. And I don't think Ohio State will be able to stop it. I think Michigan is that type of team. They can do that against anybody. Penn State's defense, Chase, that was one of the best front sevens in the country, still is. I mean, you saw what they did last week. So I just think I think it's a low scoring game. And it's hard for me to say that, but it's a Big Ten game. I mean, how many of these freaking big noon kickoff, low scoring Big Ten games are we going to see? They're hard to watch. I think it's going to be another game that's hard to watch. But give me Michigan and the under, and that's my lock of the week, Chase.
The lock of the
Michigan,
week.
lock of the week. Michigan and the under. I hate that I just did that.
Let's go.
But no, Michigan and the under, man. I love the Wolverines here.
You don't? Are we getting Are we getting 2 lock of the weeks? You know what? I'm gonna do it too. Lock of the week too. Michigan and the under.
Let's go, baby.
Let's go. Let's ride. We're gonna be eating bird and flipping birds because Crying Ryan is gonna be stuffed like a turkey, baby. Michigan all day, every day. Take it to the bank. Jimmy, we miss you. Michigan and the under, locks of the week. It's time, Billy. When we made this podcast, we cycled. We had a name, and then we changed it because we wanted to reflect both of our loves for our individual schools and our individual football teams. And we've talked about this. We talk about each team every week as we progressively move toward this inevitable date. But it's time. It's rivalry week. It's rivalry week, boy. Tennessee going in. I don't know. Vanderbilt going into Knoxville as a 27-point dog. That's a big spread in my opinion. Over under right now set at 56.5. Billy, what do you and them stankin' doors think about this big rivalry game this weekend?
Chase, Vanderbilt's just not. They're not a good spot as a program right now. They're not. And I know it's a rivalry game. I know it's rivalry week, but I mean, they got pummeled by South Carolina. They lost 47-6. And South Carolina, I mean, you could argue is the worst team in the East. I mean, and Tennessee, we talk about them. They're probably not in that elite tier this year, but they're in that second tier with, I think Ole Miss and, I want to say they're on the same tier as Missouri too, kind of right below Alabama and Georgia. So, I mean, what's going to happen when they play a team like that? I just think Tennessee rolls over Vandy. I think they cover minus 27. I think it's down. I saw it at 25.5 when I checked earlier. But Chase, I think there's a slight chance Vanderbilt just plays with their hair on fire. Tennessee's kind of beaten down, and Vanderbilt maybe covers. But the more likely thing that happens is Tennessee rolls over Vandy, and it's not a game. And take the over, too, because I think Tennessee is going to finally score and get some momentum. I think Nico gets in there in the second half, and we see some Nico magic, which, quite frankly, I think that might be the most exciting part of this game, seeing Nico. So, yeah, I'd like Tennessee to cover, and I like the over because I think Tennessee will score. It's not about Vanderbilt.
Last week, glad I didn't have to watch that. I said that I was so very happy that I wouldn't having to watch Tennessee, Georgia, and Boy, was I correct. Two bad blowouts. I mean, two of the worst losses we've back to back at least we've had in a very long time. And there's doubt. I want to send a quick message to Tennessee fans. You guys have been the worst fan base this year. You guys suck. You're horrible. What are we doing? You knew this season was going to be not as good as last year, and you want to complain. We went 11 games once, and we get entitled. Shut your faces. I'm done with y'all for this season. Besides the point, I think Tennessee does cover here. I think Nico gets in the second half, which I'm very much looking forward to. I'm very excited to see what he does. I hope he gets a whole half, if not a whole three quarters. Let him go. Let the kid let it loose. Let it fly. You're gonna finish hopefully 8-4 by the time this game is over. Um, so we'll see kind of how where this game lies on the season. But yeah, it's been a rough one. It's been not as fun as it was last year, but we all knew that. The smart fans knew that that this was going to be a little bit of a down year. But yeah, I like Tennessee to cover here. I like the under though, because I don't think Tennessee is going to score because that offense they couldn't find their way out of a phone booth with an unlocked door and a navigator. They are lost. Then there's going to be a lot of questions this offseason with Joey Hazel, especially.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if you see Derek Mason walking around the streets in Nashville, you hand him my phone number and you tell him to call me because we got to talk contract because we're trying to wiggle him in Knoxville. Um, so I could hook him up. I give him the best best places to go. But I like Tennessee here, and I like the under. Um, we have our locks of the week. We're locked in. We're agreeing. We're both trying to elevate our pick'em game. Basketball has started. Tennessee is in a boy. They're in a tournament right now. That tournament is loaded. We'll get to talk about basketball here in a couple of weeks. Um, hopefully, we'll get into that after football is kind of wrapped up with. Next week, we have our conference title predictions. That should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Billy, I hope that you have the best Thanksgiving ever. I hope you guys have the best Thanksgiving ever. And I hope you guys are so full of food that by the time Saturday rolls around, you're not moving from your couch. And you're going to be locked in to football, but also be locked into our Twitter page, Kings of TN Pod on Twitter. That's where this episode goes. That's where we try to tweet as much as possible. So follow us there. And guys, happy Thanksgiving. Happy Rivalry Week. And we'll see you
Mm-hmm.
guys next week. Let's go, Billy.